To spank or not to spank? That is the question. Today, I will explain to you why spanking is important and a form of discipline. You need to know this because when you have kids of your own, it actually helps in the child's development to spank them. Today, I'm going to cover why spanking is important, why it is more effective than other methods, and why it is not child abuse. I will start out by telling you why it is important to a child's development. Spanking is important for many reasons, one including respect. Parents want kids to respect them, so they must draw boundaries. Some fear is also necessary for them to respect the parents. If they fear the consequence of their action and possibly getting a spank, they won't do it again. According to Madame Noir, chasing your child and pleading for them to respect you is not parenting. They'll never learn the consequences, they won't know what they did is wrong, and they'll end up growing up more disrespectful because of it, according to CNN. It also helps enforce no repetition. So if a spanking is painful, a child isn't going to want to repeat the same action because they're not going to want to feel the pain again. It also comes from love from a parent. When a parent loves their child, they'll want to shape their behavior and have them grow up the best way they possibly can. So if a parent explains what they did wrong and why it was wrong, during this, it helps the child teach them, and it's out of love. And this also comes back to teaching discipline, where a smack on the butt is not wrong to reemphasize your point to the child. So if a child runs in the street, you must spank them so there's not a chance they'll do it again and get hit by a car, according to Angel Fire. When a child pushes you, a spank can also mean you show business. So if a child starts back-talking you, disrespecting in any way, running into the street, not listening, a spank can help them get back into line. And it's also important for the foundation of a family. So a child will learn their place, and if the parents work together to help teach the child this, then that incorporates to good behavior. Now that I've told you why spanking is important, I'll tell you why it's more effective than other punishments. A lot of punishments depend on the age and what the child did. But often, when you have a younger child, timeouts aren't always as effective depending on the situation. And this kind of just gives the child time to aimlessly look into space or daydream. So they're not really gonna, if they're too young to understand, they won't reflect on what they did wrong as much, but a spanking can really teach them. You could also take away privileges, but that isn't as effective because then the child only behaves because he wants to play with his toys or watch TV. He doesn't behave because he respects you. So this also could require you or tempt you to give him more stuff and more useless toys so you have more to take away from him, which isn't as effective as spanking, where he would actually learn what he did wrong and respect you. And researchers actually say that spanking is good for children, at least a little bit. Younger kids who are spanked more are actually more likely to do more volunteer work and attend college after high school because they grow up having more respect for other people. And spanking does not need to be used for all jobs, but the ones that require a child to understand and not want to repeat the action, it can be used for that, and sometimes for the more not as minor things that the child does. Now that I've explained why it's more effective, I'll explain why it's not abuse. So this picture is clearly an abused child. She has bruises on her face and a cut on her lip. And this is a whole nother level. This is being beaten to death out of anger. And then this is a child who just needs a good spanking. So if you see the difference on how the child is reacted to. We're not talking about, with spanking, we're not talking about drawing blood or bruising. We're just talking about a simple smack on the butt. So we're not talking about violence. Actually, the definition of violence is exertion of physical force so as to injure or abuse, but you're not going to injure the child, you're going to teach them a lesson. Parents and grandparents often got the belt or a good smack, and they have turned out to be less disrespectful than our generation, studies show. Exertion of physical force alone, so as not to injure or abuse, is okay, that's not bad. Think about if your kid is about to run in the street, you're going to grab him away. That's a physical force, but it's not abuse. You don't want him to get hit by that car. Or if you pick him up and take him out of the store because he's throwing a temper tantrum because he couldn't get the candy he wanted, that's teaching a lesson. So, according to Matt Walsh, and it's not misplaced outrage. If you spank just because you're angry at them, that's one thing. But if you spank because they're acting up or bad and they need a wake-up call, that's a completely different thing. Abuse is more about lashing out in anger. Spankings, if used correctly, are for teaching. In conclusion, a child should be spanked every now and then to put them in place and enforce good behavior. Spanking is a smart form of discipline to show your child you mean business and to teach them discipline. Today I talked to you about why spanking is important, why it is more effective than other punishments, and why it is not abuse. As Matt Walsh said, if spanking is violence, then sending your child to his room is imprisonment, removing privileges is blackmail, and telling him to do chores is slave labor. Thank you.